Aloha, my lovelies. Welcome back to another book review where we will be looking at the book Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. Rena Barron came from a small town in Alabama. Her bio, which I will link in the description box for you guys, says that while she started writing in middle school, she really came into herself as an author and as a writer around high school. It also comments on how she started writing because she had a hard time finding anybody that looked like her or someone that she could relate to, which I think is something that a lot of other people can relate to as well. Aside from this series, which is apparently being made into a movie produced by Michael B. Jordan, she has another book which is made for younger middle grade audiences called Maya and the Rising Dark. But this book, Kingdom of Souls, which is the first book that she's written as far as I'm aware, is about a girl named Era, who is born to two powerful witch doctors, but as fate would have it, she has no power of her own. Every year, she desperately prays to her ancestors and her gods for even a scrap of the magic that her family possesses, believing it to be the only way that her mother, whose disappointment is suffocating, will love her. After returning home from another failed year, children begin to go missing, and Era turns to the forbidden art of selling your years for magic, hoping to find the kidnappers. What she does find turns her world upside down. A powerful enemy looms over her life, and she has to race against time in order to save the people that she loves. But magic always comes with a price. This book was a roller coaster of emotion, in the sense that the first half of the book, while beautifully written and creating this really lovely world-building situation, it was just really slow. And then the next 3/8 of the story were fantastically paced and engaging and dangerous and passionate, and it was really everything I was kind of hoping and expecting this book when I first picked it up. The last bit, however, was disappointingly overwhelming, and the cliffhanger didn't feel justified. Don't get me wrong, I loved this book. So much so that I do intend to read the second one, even if a little begrudgingly. So here's what I like. The world building, most of the characters, if not the character arcs, the magic system, as well as the magic system put in place for those who don't have magic. The world building was fantastic. And while I do feel like it took forever, I can honestly say that the build-up was worth it. The history of the land is interesting and engaging. The history of its people and how the people and the land tie together with their gods and how magic plays a role in their lives was interesting, and made me want to know more about where it all started, how it all started, why there were so many secrets. The construction of the setting was beautiful and vivid, and it felt like, as you would often say with really well written novels, it was like I could feel the location. I could feel the way that the character was interpreting the land, and it was, considering this was her first book, really great. Barron's characters were mostly well thought out and mostly explored all the way through, though I do feel really robbed of one particular character that I will not tell you about because that would be a spoiler. One of the other things I really enjoyed was, I think a lot of times when people don't have magic in a magical setting, every good, big quote-unquote on good story has that sort of moniker that magic comes with a price. But then in some stories, when someone who doesn't have magic tries to get magic, there isn't much of a price to pay. But what I really appreciated about Barron's novel is that the price for magic for those who do not possess it is huge, right? And I don't know, this might be minor spoilers, but like one spell potentially could kill somebody, right? You do not get a say in how many years are taken from you when you do magic this way. And I think that's such an interesting and honestly different take on magic has a price, and I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed how it came up with the protagonist and how her views adjust as she goes throughout the story, especially on that particular kind of magic use. And it was just really interesting and engaging, and I really enjoyed it. Now, before we get into what I didn't like, I again would like to preface this by saying I know this is Barron's first novel, and it's because of that while I say all of these things, I say it simply as a reader of young adult novels, and I understand that this was her first shot, which is part of why I'm reading the second one, because I would love to see how she's grown in the year since she published this first one. So with that being said, like I said previously, I found the first half of the book to be extremely slow. I thought the pacing was a little weird. I understood that there was a lot of groundwork that needed to happen in order for the reader to really understand what was going on. But at the same time, it really felt like it took too long. It felt like the groundwork took too long, and that despite all of the groundwork that happened in the first half, there's still so much that we'll learn within that next 3/8 that I think if it had been interspersed differently in order to help with the pacing of the story, maybe that what might have helped. I don't really have any solutions. It was just my personal opinion. I also had a hard time with one of the villains and their arc, or the lack thereof. It just felt very forced. Like, the villain's later actions didn't feel in sync with her actions throughout the whole entire first 7/8 of the novel. Some of the things she did just felt really out of character and kind of out of left field, and I feel like if that was the direction we were going with this particular character, that she should have demonstrated some of those qualities earlier. I don't know. This next section does contain spoilers, some pretty specific spoilers, so continue at your own risk. If you don't want the spoilers, go ahead and skip to the next section. While I typically enjoy a slow burn, just because everybody loves to be tormented emotionally when reading, I don't like it when slow burns don't go anywhere. And in this particular case, the romance didn't go anywhere. And while there was a logical explanation within the story for it, I, as a reader, felt cheated out of, I guess, something I deserved, which maybe is a little selfish as a reader, but that's just my personal take on it. Part of why I think it was so hard to accept the falling out of the logical reasons was that the romance was built up so nicely, and it was such a good slow burn, and the burn was so well done. And it really had me longing for them to work out in the end and to have this beautiful thing to move forward and grow together, and then nothing. And that sort of thing kind of drives me crazy. I don't like to be built up and then to go, you know what I mean? Like, this is one thing, but there's also a plot twist that happens within that relationship that kind of is almost a catalyst, if you will, as to why they don't end up working out. And I just felt like it was really unnecessary. I think that there could have been a different catalyst that would have worked just as fine. The one that was in there just felt really, it was really gross, which I think is probably part of the point, I suppose, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. The other thing I really disliked was that Barron put an intentional spoiler in her novel. This next part is super duper spoilery, so if you don't want this, skip it. Skip. I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay, one of the villains tells Era that the love interest is gonna die. Ah! And, like, I understand prophecies, right? And sometimes prophecies are necessary in order to propel the protagonist forward. But in this particular case, because the prophecy wasn't about the protagonist, it was used as a way to hurt the protagonist more than anything, it ended up unintentionally leaving the reader with only, like, 4 or 5 possibilities to what's going to happen to the love interest. He either dies, Ara saves him, she's told he dies, but then he comes back and he's like, what? I'd never die. And the other one is that he dies or is on the brink of death and then is brought back to life or makes it through, whatever, right? And as a reader, like, who reads a lot, right? Having that presented to me, it was about halfway through the book when that's presented to me, right? So we've had all this build up for this romance that's going to take place, and then halfway through the book we're like, boom, by the way, he's going to die. Immediately that puts my guards up. I am no longer willing to get attached to this character right? And it tells me that because something's bad's gonna happen to him. So why would I allow myself to get attached to him when I know something bad is gonna happen? You know what I mean? So I felt like it really took away my experience from the novel because I wasn't given that opportunity to feel sad about whatever was going to happen to him or her or them. It also made the eventual fallout of the logical reasons behind the slow burn not working out less impactful because I already wasn't attached to him. I had already decided he was as good as dead and that there was no point in getting emotionally involved. So that kind of sucked. All that being said, overall, I did really enjoy the book. There were just a few really specific things that bothered me, but for a first book, this was pretty freaking great. The next book in this series is called The Reaper of Souls. I peeked at it while I was at Barnes & Noble's a couple days ago, and it looks really interesting. My understanding is that it picks up right where it left off, and I'm really hoping the Demon King shows up a little bit more in this novel because that should be interesting. As maybe hesitant as I am to read this next one, just based on my experience with this first one, if there's one thing I hate in this world, it's an unfinished story, so I do feel like I need to see this through. But again, that being said, I am genuinely excited to continue reading Era's story to see where she goes from here. The books I am currently reading and will be reviewing next are The Once and Future Witches, which so far is fantastic. It's about 3 witch sisters who, I don't know, reconnect and magic. What's not to like? And I am also reading The Song of Achilles, which is basically a young adult version of the Iliad so far, from what I've understood from it. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm reading this one with my book club, and it's great, and the writing is fantastic so far, so I'm really enjoying that. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you guys thought of the books in the comments, or if you guys have any suggestions for other books that I should read, go ahead and drop them down below for me. I'll take a look at them. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you're updated on when the next video drops. And I'll see you later because I'm outies. Bye!